But this dependence on the outside world is a gamble. The outside world won't always provide what a brain needs.
I'm going to try.
This is the Jensen family from Milwaukee. Carol, Bill, their sons Tom and John, and daughter Victoria. These are no ordinary children. All three were adopted from a Romanian orphanage when they were just 4 years old.
So it was 1996 we came to the United States, and then that's when I turned almost 4, on August 5th of 1996. So
in 1989, at the fall of Nicolae Ceausescu's regime, there were 170,000 children in Romanian orphanages. The children were often kept in appalling conditions, left to cry without human contact.
You'd walk into a room and you'd be surrounded by little kids who you've never seen before. And they want to jump in your arms or sit in your lap or hold your hand or walk off with you. And this sort of indiscriminate behavior is sort of the hallmark feature of kids who've grown up in an institution. It's so overwhelming that your tendency is to get very emotional. And so we'd have to keep that in check because you didn't want to do that in front of the kids.
Dr. Charles Nelson witnessed the children's behavior and wondered if it went beyond mere loneliness or distress. Had all that neglect impacted the physical structure of their brains?
Particularly postnatally, brains need experience in order to develop. The developing brain is seeking out information and seeking out experiences, and if they don't get those, the brain doesn't know how to get wired up and built correctly. The kids in the institution, they have IQs in the 60s and 70s, their language is very delayed, they have severe attachment problems, and they show signs of an underdeveloped brain. They had small heads, and their EEG activity was very reduced.
Dr. Nelson began looking at the electrical activity in these children's brains. He was astounded to discover that the children had dramatically reduced neural activity. But there was more. He found evidence that children placed into families before the age of 2 generally recovered. But for those who didn't leave the institution until older than 2, their brain development was compromised.
The lack of experiences leads the brain to wire incorrectly because it doesn't have any input into it. And as a result, neurons don't know which other neurons it should be communicating with.
Nelson's work revealed that when the brain is starved of the things it needs, like touch, stimulation, love, a child's development is stunted. The only record the Jensen children have of their early years is a couple of Polaroids.
In the orphanage, we really didn't speak any, a known language. So when, my mom asked the taxi driver what we were speaking, the taxi driver was like, gibberish.
No, there is none. It's coconut. Can I taste?
The Jensens were all adopted after the age of 2.
In the orphanage, it's hard. It was rough. It wasn't easy. Kids didn't get much attention.
Almost 20 years have passed since they left Romania. They still live with the consequences of that early neglect.
Tom has ADHD, and he has learning disabilities, but not to the same extent that John has. for John, I think it started out hard and it continues to be hard.
We went to doctors, psychiatrists, physicians, helping me out through the tough times that I have right now. So it's working, so I like it.
With the support of a loving family, the Jensen children are finding ways to cope with the scars of their early childhood. What we experience in our early years goes a long way toward defining who we become.